The underestimated species commander Zelak stood before the massive viewing screen of his flagship, the Void Crusher. The ship stretched over 4 kilometers in length, its hull bristling with plasma cannons and antimatter torpedoes. Around him, the bridge crew worked at their stations, monitoring the dozens of other warships that made up his invasion fleet. The Kethran Empire had conquered 47 star systems in the past century, and Zelak had personally overseen the subjugation of 12 different species. The small blue planet rotating slowly on his screen should have been just another easy conquest. Earth, the locals called it. Such a simple name for what appeared to be such a simple world. "Tell me about these humans again," Zelak commanded, his 4 arms clasped behind his back. His species had evolved from predatory hunters, and his natural instincts told him this should be an effortless victory. That Subcommander Thane, a younger Kethran with bright red scales, consulted his data tablet. "They still use chemical propulsion for their spacecraft, sir. Their military technology appears to be based on projectile weapons and primitive nuclear devices. Their largest city has fewer than 20 million inhabitants." Zelak's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Nuclear weapons? How quaint. We stopped using those 3,000 years ago." He gestured toward the tactical display, showing Earth's orbital space. "What about defenses?" "Minimal, sir. We've detected several communication satellites and what appears to be a basic space station. Nothing that could threaten even our smallest escort vessels." The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's massive engines. Zelak studied the planet below, watching the swirl of white clouds over blue oceans. It reminded him of Kethros, his home world, before they had turned it into a fortress world covered in metal and weapons factories. "Sir," another officer called out, "long-range sensors show no signs of advanced technology. No energy shields, no particle beam weapons, no faster-than-light communication networks. They appear to be exactly what they seem, a primitive civilization that has barely left its home planet." Zelak nodded with satisfaction. This would be perfect for what the High Command had requested. The Empire needed a demonstration of power to discourage other species from resisting their expansion. A quick, overwhelming victory against these humans would send exactly the right message to the rest of the galaxy. "Prepare a standard intimidation protocol," Zelak ordered. "We'll give them one chance to surrender. When they refuse, we'll destroy 3 of their major population centers. That should convince them to accept our rule." Far below on Earth's surface, in a facility buried 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, Director Elena Vasquez watched the alien fleet on her command screens. The room around her buzzed with quiet activity as dozens of technicians monitored sensors that the aliens had no idea existed. "Quantum scanners confirm 48 ships in the enemy fleet," reported Lieutenant Commander James Park, her tactical officer. "Plasma-based weapons, antimatter drives, typical Kethran Empire technology." Elena nodded calmly. She had been expecting this day for 15 years, ever since Earth's deep space monitoring stations had first detected Kethran expansion in their direction. "What's their formation?" "Standard intimidation pattern. They're positioning themselves for orbital bombardment of major population centers, and our people. All evacuation procedures are in effect. Underground transit systems are moving civilians to the deep shelters. Surface cities will appear fully populated on their scanners, but actual human presence is minimal." Elena allowed herself a small smile. The aliens thought they were looking at primitive humans going about their daily lives in vulnerable surface cities. They had no idea that those cities were largely empty shells, their real populations safe in vast underground complexes that had been built over the past 50 years. "Director," another technician called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet." "Put it through." The main screen filled with the image of a tall, reptilian creature with 4 arms and glowing yellow eyes. When it spoke, its voice was translated by Earth's advanced linguistic computers. "Primitive humans of Earth," the alien commander began, "I am Commander Zelak of the Kethran Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately and accept our rule, or face the consequences of your defiance. Elena picked up her communication device. This is Director Elena Vasquez of Earth. We decline your generous offer. Earth remains free. Even through the translation system, she could hear the alien's surprise. You dare refuse the might of the Kethran Empire? Very well. You have chosen destruction over wisdom. Watch your cities burn and remember that. You could have prevented this. The transmission ended. Elena turned to her staff. All stations, initiate Protocol 7. It's time to show our visitors what humanity is really capable of. Above Earth's atmosphere, Zelak stared at his communication screen in disbelief. They refused? A primitive species actually refused the protection of the Empire? Sir, his weapons officer reported. Should we proceed with the demonstration? Zelak's anger flared. These humans needed to learn their place in the galactic order. Target their 3 largest population centers. Full plasma bombardment. Make it quick and decisive. The Kethran fleet moved into attack formation. Their weapons charged with deadly energy, creating an orange glow around each ship's weapon arrays. On the tactical displays, Earth's major cities appeared helpless and undefended. Firing in 3, 2, 1, fire. Dozens of plasma beams lanced down through Earth's atmosphere. The superheated energy struck New Tokyo, Neo Berlin, and New Cairo with devastating force. Massive explosions bloomed on the planet's surface, visible even from space. Where great cities had stood, only smoking craters remained. Zelak watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. Send another message to the humans. Tell them that more cities will suffer the same fate unless they surrender immediately. But the response that came back was not what he expected. Director Vasquez's voice was calm, but there was something cold and dangerous in her tone. Commander Zelak, you have just made the greatest mistake in your species' history. You thought you were attacking helpless civilians. You were wrong about everything. Zelak frowned. What does she mean? His sensor officer's voice was tight with confusion. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from Earth's surface. Power sources are activating all across the planet. Impossible. Our scans showed no advanced technology. Sir, something's happening to their orbital satellites. On the main screen, the small objects that the Kethrans had dismissed as primitive communication satellites began to unfold. Like metal flowers blooming in space, they revealed their true nature as advanced weapons platforms. Energy patterns, unlike anything in the Kethran database, began to build around each platform. Sir, the tactical officer called out urgently, those aren't satellites. They're weapon systems, and they're more advanced than anything in our fleet. Before Zelak could respond, space around Earth began to shimmer. Dozens of ships appeared out of nowhere, decloaking in perfect formation around the Kethran fleet. These human vessels were sleek and dark, their hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. How is this possible? Zelak whispered. His communications officer interrupted. Sir, we're receiving another transmission from Earth. A new voice spoke, calm and professional. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Earth Defense Force. You wanted to see what humanity is capable of when threatened. Now you will learn. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the human flagship Terra's shield, watching the alien fleet on her tactical displays. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their training and preparation finally being put to the test. Admiral, her weapons officer reported, all defense platforms are online. The fleet is in position. We have complete tactical superiority. Sarah nodded. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, training in facilities that officially didn't exist, commanding ships that were supposed to be impossible. Open a channel to the entire Kethran fleet. Channel open, ma'am. Kethran vessels, this is Admiral Chun. You came here thinking Earth was defenseless. You attacked our cities, believing you were killing innocent civilians. You were wrong on both counts. She paused, watching as the alien ships tried desperately to scan the human vessels surrounding them. What you destroyed were empty buildings. Our people were safely underground before your first shot was fired. What you thought were primitive satellites are quantum-powered defense platforms. What you thought was an undefended planet is the most heavily fortified world in this galaxy. On Zelak's bridge, panic was beginning to set in. Sir, our weapons can't lock onto their ships. It's like they're not entirely there. Phase shift technology, the science officer explained, his voice shaking. They're existing partially in another dimension. Our sensors can barely detect them, let alone target them. Zelak felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. How long have they had this technology? Admiral Chen's voice continued from the speakers. You want to know how long we've been preparing for you, Commander Zelak? We've been watching your empire expand for 50 years. We've studied your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. We've been ready for this day since before you knew Earth existed. One of the human ships fired a single shot. It wasn't a plasma beam or an energy weapon. The projectile seemed to bend space around itself as it moved, creating a ripple in reality that struck the Kethrin flagship shields. Instead of exploding, the weapon created a localized gravity well that crushed the shield generators like tin cans. The massive warship's defenses collapsed instantly. Impossible, Zelak breathed. They're using weaponized gravity. Sir, we're losing power to all major systems. Their weapon is disrupting our antimatter containment. Admiral Chen's voice came through again. That was a warning shot, Commander. You will order your fleet to stand down immediately, or we will demonstrate the full extent of human defensive capabilities. Zelak looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were veteran warriors who had conquered entire worlds, but now they looked at their instruments with growing terror. The humans had technology that seemed to violate the known laws of physics. Sir, his communications officer said, quietly, what are your orders? For the first time in his military career, Commander Zelak faced an enemy he couldn't defeat. The humans had been playing a game he didn't even know existed, and they had been winning since before the first move was made. Open a channel to Admiral Chun, he said, finally. Channel open, sir. Admiral Chun, this is Commander Zelak. I request terms for the withdrawal of my fleet. Denied, Commander. Your fleet will remain in Earth orbit while we discuss the future of Kethrin-human relations. You wanted to see what humanity was capable of. The demonstration has only just begun. As Zelak stared at the tactical display, showing his fleet surrounded by impossible human ships, he realized that everything his empire thought they knew about this corner of the galaxy was wrong. The small blue planet wasn't a target, it was a trap, and they had walked right into it. The awakening Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center of Terra's shield, watching the Kethrin fleet hang motionless in Earth's orbit. The alien ships that had seemed so threatening just hours ago now looked like trapped animals surrounded by humanity's true defensive fleet. But Sarah knew this was only the beginning of what would be a very long day. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Park's voice came through her earpiece. We're receiving priority communications from 17 different sectors across the galaxy. Word of the Kethrin defeat is spreading faster than we anticipated. Sarah nodded. Humanity had spent decades building an intelligence network that spanned multiple star systems, but they had always known that their eventual reveal would create ripples throughout galactic civilization. What kind of communications? Mostly requests for diplomatic contact. The Vortak Collective wants to establish trade relations. The Spiral Confederation is asking about defense treaties. And Admiral, the Hegemony Council is demanding to know why we've been hiding our capabilities. Through the transparent aluminum windows of her bridge, Sarah could see Earth rotating slowly beneath them. The blue and green world looked peaceful from here, but she knew that beneath its surface, massive changes were already taking place. Cities that had been evacuated were coming back to life, but not in the way the Kethrins expected. Deep underground, the real human civilization was revealing itself. Transport tubes that could move people at near supersonic speeds connected vast underground metropolises that put surface cities to shame. Fusion reactors that had been disguised as geothermal plants were powering up to full capacity. Manufacturing centers that officially didn't exist were beginning to produce the tools humanity would need for its new role in galactic affairs. Ma'am, her tactical officer interrupted. Commander Zelak is requesting another audience. Put him through. The main screen filled with the image of the Kethran commander. His 4 arms were held in what Sarah recognized as a gesture of submission in his culture. His yellow eyes, which had burned with arrogance hours earlier, now showed confusion and something approaching respect. Admiral Chun, Zelak began, his translated voice carefully controlled. I must ask, how long have your people been watching us? Sarah considered her answer carefully. The truth would be shocking, but it was time for galactic civilization to understand exactly what humanity represented. Commander, we detected your empire's expansion into the Rigel Sector 47 years ago. We've been monitoring your military capabilities, your cultural development, and your expansion patterns ever since. 47 years. Zelak's mandibles clicked in distress. But that would mean you've been watching us since before we conquered the Androxy system. We were watching you before that, too. In fact, we've been observing most spacefaring civilizations in this galactic arm for the better part of a century. The implications of this statement hung in the space between the 2 ships. Sarah could see Zelak processing what this meant for everything his people thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. Meanwhile, in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Director Elena Vasquez was coordinating humanity's emergence on a scale that few people had ever imagined possible. Screens around her showed activities across the solar system as humanity's true infrastructure came online. Director Dr. Michael Torres, her chief science advisor, approached with a data tablet. The quantum communication network is fully active. We have real-time contact with our observation posts in 43 different star systems. Elena looked at the star map displayed on the main screen. Red dots marked the locations of human monitoring stations throughout local space. Each one had been secretly established over the past several decades, staffed by volunteers who had dedicated their lives to watching and learning about other civilizations. What's the status of our deep space assets? Station Omega. 7 reports that the Hegemony Council has dispatched a diplomatic fleet toward Earth. ETA is approximately 6 days. Station Beta. 12 confirms that the Vortak Collective is mobilizing their trade consortium. They want to establish economic relations immediately. Elena nodded. Humanity had always known that revealing their true capabilities would change everything. What they hadn't fully prepared for was how quickly other civilizations would want to establish new relationships. And our people in the field? Dr. Torres smiled. Agent Rodriguez reports that her 20-year deep cover mission with the Spiral Confederation is complete. She's requesting permission to reveal her true identity to their leadership. Agent Kim says the same from his position within the Hegemony military structure. For decades, human agents had been living among alien civilizations, learning their languages, studying their cultures, and gathering intelligence. Now, as humanity stepped into the light, these agents were preparing to reshape galactic diplomacy from within. Back in space, Captain Marcus Rivera commanded the human vessel Silent Guardian as it approached the Kethran flagship. His ship was smaller than Terra's shield, but no less impressive, its hull seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal as its adaptive armor responded to environmental conditions. Captain, his first officer, reported, "We're ready to begin the inspection of the Kethran vessel." Marcus had been chosen for this mission because of his unique background. He had spent 15 years studying alien psychology and technology, preparing for the day when humanity would need to understand and interact with other species as equals rather than hidden observers. Remember, he told his boarding team, "We're not conquerors. We're teachers. The Kethrans made a mistake, but they can learn from it." The airlock sealed behind them as Marcus and his team entered the Kethran flagship. The alien crew watched them with a mixture of fear and curiosity as they moved through the corridors. The ship's technology was impressive by galactic standards, But Marcus could see that it was built according to principles that humanity had moved beyond decades ago. "Commander Zelak," Marcus said as they entered the bridge, "I'm Captain Rivera. I'm here to help you understand what happened today and what it means for your people's future." Zelak studied the human officer carefully. "Captain, I must admit that I am confused. Your people have capabilities that seem impossible. Your weapons use principles that our science cannot explain. How have you achieved such advancement while remaining hidden?" Marcus gestured toward the viewing screen, where Earth hung in space, surrounded by human ships. "The answer is patience, Commander. While your empire and others have focused on conquest and expansion, humanity has focused on learning and preparation. But how did you develop such technology without our knowledge? Our sensor networks monitor all technological civilizations." "You monitored what we wanted you to see," Marcus explained patiently. "Our real research and development took place in facilities that existed outside normal spacetime. We learned to work in parallel dimensions, to conduct experiments in pocket universes, to build and test technologies that would be invisible to conventional sensors." The bridge fell silent as the aliens tried to process this information. The idea that an entire civilization could develop advanced technology in secret, completely outside the knowledge of established galactic powers, challenged everything they thought they knew about how the universe worked. On Earth's surface, in the city that had once been called New Tokyo, something remarkable was happening. What the Kethrans had seen as complete destruction was revealing itself to be something entirely different. The buildings that had been reduced to rubble were rising again, but not through reconstruction. They were being grown. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood in what appeared to be the ruins of downtown New Tokyo, watching as molecular assemblers rebuilt the city using principles of biological growth rather than mechanical construction. Buildings sprouted from the ground like plants, their structures optimizing themselves according to program parameters that took into account everything from earthquake resistance to aesthetic beauty. "The nanoscale reconstruction units are working perfectly," she reported into her communication device. "The Kethrans think they destroyed our cities, but they actually just triggered our renewal protocols." This was perhaps humanity's greatest secret. They had long ago moved beyond the concept of permanent structures. Their cities, their ships, even their bodies could be rebuilt and improved on demand using technology that turned matter itself into a programmable medium. In space, Admiral Chun was preparing for the next phase of humanity's revelation. "Communications, open a channel to all ships in the system, both human and Kethran." "Channel open, Admiral." "This is Admiral Chun to all vessels. In 1 hour, we will be demonstrating humanity's deep space capabilities. All ships are to maintain current positions while we conduct a training exercise." She turned to her navigation officer. "Initiate quantum fold protocol. Let's show our guests how humans really travel between the stars." Around Earth, space began to ripple. The human ships that had seemed so advanced suddenly revealed that they were just the beginning. Massive structures began to phase into normal space, emerging from dimensional folds that made them appear to materialize out of nothing. These were humanity's true deep space vessels, ships the size of small moons, their hulls containing entire ecosystems and manufacturing capabilities that could build new worlds from raw matter. They had been waiting in parallel dimensions, ready to emerge when humanity finally revealed itself to the galaxy. Commander Zelak watched the impossible sight with growing awe. "How many ships do you have?" Admiral Chen's response was calm and matter-of-fact. "Enough, Commander. Enough to defend every peaceful world in this galaxy. Enough to stop any aggressor. Enough to ensure that what happened to Earth today never happens to anyone else." As the demonstration continued, reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Human agents were revealing themselves to alien governments carrying messages of peace and cooperation. Observation posts that had been hidden for decades were dropping their concealment, offering their host systems protection and technological assistance. The galaxy was waking up to a new reality. The small blue world that so many had dismissed as primitive and defenseless was actually the home of the most advanced civilization in local space. Humanity had been watching, learning, and preparing while others had been fighting and conquering. Admiral Lieutenant Commander Park reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting an immediate audience with Earth's leadership." Sarah smiled. The Galactic Council was the closest thing to a unified government that existed among the spacefaring species, but they had never invited humanity to join because they believed Earth was too primitive to contribute anything meaningful. "Tell them," Sarah said, "that Earth accepts their invitation, but inform them that the meeting will take place here in Earth orbit, and that will be the one setting the agenda." As her words were transmitted across the galaxy, Sarah looked out at the stars and thought about the future. Humanity had spent a century preparing for this moment, building the capabilities and developing the wisdom needed to take their place as protectors and teachers rather than conquerors. The age of hidden observation was ending. The age of human leadership in galactic affairs was about to begin. The new galactic order 3 months after what historians would later call the Earth Revelation, Admiral Marcus Rivera stood in the center of the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Station. The massive structure orbited Earth like a small moon, its crystalline halls designed to accommodate representatives from 47 different species. Today would mark the formal establishment of humanity's role as the galaxy's peacekeeping force. Marcus had been promoted following his successful diplomatic mission with the Kethrans. His ability to understand alien psychology while maintaining human principles had made him the ideal choice to lead Earth's new Galactic Relations Department. As he walked through the station's corridors, he could see delegates from across the galaxy preparing for the historic assembly. The Kethran delegation occupied an entire wing of the station. Commander Zelak, no longer the arrogant military leader who had attacked Earth, now served as his people's ambassador to humanity. The transformation had been remarkable to witness. The Kethrans had gone from would-be conquerors to eager students, desperate to understand how humanity had achieved such advanced civilization without the typical galactic pattern of conquest and expansion. Admiral Rivera, Zelak approached with the respectful bearing he had adopted since learning the truth about humanity's capabilities. "My government has completed the reforms you suggested. Our military has been restructured from an offensive force to a defensive one. We are ready to present our application for membership in the Terra Protocols." Marcus nodded with satisfaction. The Terra Protocols were humanity's framework for galactic civilization, a set of principles that emphasize cooperation, technological sharing, and peaceful resolution of conflicts. Any species could join, but they had to demonstrate genuine commitment to these ideals. "I'm pleased to hear that, Ambassador Zelak. The review committee will evaluate your application during today's session." As they spoke, Dr. Elena Vasquez approached from the direction of the assembly hall. She had been appointed as Earth's first galactic coordinator, responsible for overseeing the implementation of human-led peace initiatives across multiple star systems. "Marcus, we need to discuss the situation in the Outer Rim territories," she said, her expression serious. "The Hegemony Council is requesting our intervention in the Nexus War." The Nexus War had been raging for 6 years between the Crystalline Collective and the Metal Brotherhood, two species that had fundamentally different approaches to technology and resource utilization. Their conflict threatened to destabilize an entire sector of space. "What kind of intervention are they requesting?" Marcus asked. "Direct peacekeeping. They want us to deploy the Guardian Fleet to establish a neutral zone between the warring factions." Marcus considered this carefully. Since Earth's revelation, dozens of conflicts across the galaxy had been brought to humanity's attention. Other civilizations had quickly learned that humans possessed not only superior technology, but also an unusual talent for understanding and resolving disputes between different species. "Have we established contact with both sides?" Agent Sarah Kim has been embedded with the Crystalline Collective for 2 years. Agent David Chun has been working with the Metal Brotherhood for 18 months. Both report that their respective sides are exhausted by the conflict, but don't know how to end it without losing face. This was exactly the kind of situation where humanity's approach proved most effective. Rather than imposing solutions through force, humans specialized in finding ways for all parties to achieve their core objectives while abandoning destructive behaviors. In the main assembly hall, representatives from across the galaxy were taking their seats. The hall itself was a marvel of engineering, designed to accommodate species with radically different environmental needs. Some delegates sat in pools of liquid methane, others required high-pressure atmospheric chambers, and a few existed as pure energy patterns contained within specialized projection fields. Captain Sarah Chun, recently promoted to Fleet Admiral, entered the hall wearing the new uniform of the Earth Galactic Defense Force. The uniform was elegant in its simplicity, dark blue with silver trim, and insignia that incorporated symbols from multiple species to represent humanity's role as galactic protectors rather than rulers. Delegates of the Galactic Assembly, Sarah's voice carried clearly through the hall's translation systems. We gather today to address the formation of a new framework for interstellar civilization. Humanity does not seek to rule the galaxy. We seek to protect it. The hall fell silent. Even species that had initially been suspicious of humanity's sudden emergence had come to respect their consistent commitment to protection rather than conquest. For the past century, galactic civilization has been shaped by a cycle of expansion and conflict. Strong species conquer weak ones. Resources are fought over rather than shared. Technology is hoarded rather than distributed for the common good. Sarah paused, allowing her words to be translated into dozens of different languages and communication methods. Humanity proposes a different path. We call it the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. Under this framework, every species contributes their unique strengths to common goals. Military resources are used only for defense and peacekeeping. Technology is shared freely to raise the standard of living for all civilizations. A delegate from the Spiral Confederation, a species known for their mathematical precision, stood to speak. Admiral Chun, your proposal sounds idealistic. How do you plan to enforce compliance with these principles? Sarah smiled. An excellent question, Delegate Vextar. The answer is that we don't enforce compliance. We make cooperation more beneficial than conflict. She activated a holographic display that showed the current state of galactic civilization. Red areas marked regions of conflict, yellow showed areas of tension, and green indicated peaceful, prosperous zones. Our analysis shows that species engaged in cooperative relationships experience an average of 340% faster technological development, 280% higher standards of living, and virtually zero internal conflicts. War is not just morally destructive, it's economically inefficient. The display changed to show projections of what galactic civilization could look like under the Cooperation Initiative. Green zones expanded dramatically, while red conflict areas nearly disappeared. We offer a simple proposition to every civilization. Join the Terra Protocols, commit to peaceful cooperation, and gain access to humanity's protection and technological assistance. Refuse, and you remain free to pursue your current path, but without our support. This was the genius of humanity's approach. They didn't conquer or threaten. They simply offered a better alternative and let other species choose for themselves. Meanwhile, in a secure communication chamber deep within the station, Agent Lisa Park was conducting a classified briefing with Earth's intelligence leadership. Lisa had spent 25 years working undercover in various alien civilizations, and her insights had been crucial to developing humanity's galactic strategy. Director Vasquez, Lisa reported via encrypted quantum link. Our embedded agents report unanimous success in their revelation protocols. Every species we've made contact with has responded positively to the discovery that humans have been living among them. This had been perhaps humanity's greatest diplomatic coup. When alien governments learned that humans had been working alongside them for decades, not as spies seeking to undermine them, but as friends seeking to understand them, it created an unprecedented foundation of trust. What about resistance movements? Minimal. The Void Seekers in the Outer Rim remain hostile, but they're a minority faction. The majority of galactic civilization sees humanity as protectors rather than threats. Elena nodded with satisfaction. The careful approach of building relationships before revealing their true nature had paid off spectacularly. Back in the assembly hall, the formal voting was beginning. One by one, species representatives stood to announce their decisions regarding the Terra Protocols. The Kefren Empire votes to join the Terra Protocols. Ambassador Zelak announced, his voice carrying a pride that would have been impossible 3 months earlier. We pledge our military resources to galactic peacekeeping under human leadership. The Spiral Confederation joins the Terra Protocols, announced Delegate Vextar. We pledge our computational resources to collaborative research initiatives. The Crystalline Collective and the Metal Brotherhood jointly vote to join the Terra Protocols. Came a surprising announcement from delegates who had arrived just hours earlier. We request human mediation to end our conflict and establish a cooperative relationship. Species after species stood to join the new framework. By the end of the session, 39 of the 47 represented civilizations had committed to the Terra Protocols. The remaining 8 requested time to consider the proposal, but none voiced opposition. The formal session concluded. Admiral Rivera found himself in the station's observation deck, looking out at the fleet of ships representing dozens of different civilizations. Each vessel was unique, reflecting the distinct evolutionary and cultural history of its builders, yet they all flew together in perfect formation around Earth. Commander Zelak joined him at the observation window. Admiral, may I ask you something that has been troubling me? Of course, Ambassador. When your people first detected our empire's expansion, you could have revealed yourselves then. You could have warned us away from Earth or demonstrated your superiority before we made the mistake of attacking. Why did you wait? Marcus considered the question carefully. Because warning you away wouldn't have taught you anything. Demonstrating our superiority would have made us just another dominant species. What happened needed to happen for your people and others to understand that there was a better way. You used our attack as a teaching moment. We used your attack as an opportunity for growth. Not just for you, but for galactic civilization as a whole. Sometimes, species need to make mistakes to learn from them. Zelak was quiet for a long moment. Your people are truly remarkable. In our culture, mistakes are punished. In yours, they become lessons. That's the foundation of the Terra Protocols, Ambassador. Every species has made mistakes. Every species can learn and grow. Our job isn't to judge the past, it's to build a better future. As they stood, watching the peaceful fleet, a new ship approached the station. It was massive, larger than any vessel in the assembled fleet, its hull gleaming with an opalescent finish that seemed to shift colors as it moved. Admiral, came a transmission from the ship. This is Captain Torres of the Earth vessel New Horizons. We carry representatives from the Andromeda Galaxy who wish to establish diplomatic relations. Marcus smiled. Humanity's influence was spreading beyond their own galaxy now. Species from neighboring galactic systems had learned about Earth's new role and were seeking to establish their own relationships with the Terra Protocols. Ambassador Zelak, Marcus said, "It looks like your people won't be the last to discover that attacking Earth is a mistake. Nor will they be the last to discover that cooperation with humanity leads to something much better." In the months that followed, the Terra Protocols would expand to include over 200 species across multiple galaxies. The Galactic Assembly Station would become the first of dozens of such facilities, each serving as a center for cooperation and peaceful development. The Kefren Empire, once a military confederation focused on conquest, would become one of humanity's most trusted allies, their natural warrior instincts redirected toward protecting weaker species from aggressors. Commander Zelak would eventually become the first alien to serve as a senior officer in the Earth Galactic Defense Force. The Nexus War would end not in victory for either side, but in a fusion of technologies that made both the Crystalline Collective and Metal Brotherhood more prosperous than either could have become alone. And throughout the galaxy, species that had spent millennia fighting over resources would discover that cooperation could create abundance for everyone. Humanity had emerged from their self-imposed isolation not as conquerors, but as teachers. They had proven that the strongest force in the universe wasn't military might or technological superiority, it was the wisdom to turn enemies into allies and conflicts into opportunities for growth. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had been planning for all along.